Well, joining us now is the moderator of the United Church of Canada, Reverend Richard Bott. Thank you for joining us there from Vancouver. All right, a church under construction. You've had an amazingly challenging situation in an atheist minister. Why was it important for this trial, as it was called, not to go ahead, and for Gretta Vosper to stay a United Church minister, even though she doesn't believe in God?
Well, Lorna, I think it's important to understand that this was a settlement that was made between the regional body, Toronto Conference, the Reverend Gretta Vosper, and the congregation West Hill United Church. And so this was a local decision to settle this process and continue on in ministry. This really doesn't affect the doctrine of the United Church. It doesn't affect the processes that we have used and continue to use in celebrating who we are as God's people and as disciples of Jesus Christ.
Okay, the press statement where the church body as a whole, where you stated we value diversity and belief in God. One thing we do know about the United Church is if, let's say, for example, someone in the United Church came out supporting the Ku Klux Klan, there would be an outcry over it, wouldn't there?
I believe there would.
So there are absolutes in the United Church. Why aren't there absolutes on belief in God must be part of our ministerial service?
Well, I think those are conversations that we've been having for the last 93 years, and even before church union happened in the United Church of Canada. We have a very, very wide and diverse theology in the United Church. Now, to be fair, that wide and diverse theology is based on our relationship with God, our relationship with Jesus Christ. And in fact, all of our doctrinal statements say quite clearly that God is central to who we are. And when I think about what seems to be a sort of a versus, a dance between two different core values, they actually aren't different core values, because our understanding of our inclusiveness is all based on that relationship with God, on that relationship with Christ.
Well, I want to point out in our conversation the amazing news in your God survey. Tell us about really what you're learning about what United Church ministers believe when you took this God survey.
Well, the God survey happened long before I became moderator. It was, I guess, in the spring of 2016, when I heard a statement made that upwards of 50% of the United Church clergy didn't believe in a supernatural or theistic God, and I wanted to understand where the data was on that. And so I put together a survey and I put it out to my colleagues, and we had a huge response rate. As someone who comes out of sociology in my studies, it was a shock, not just for me, but many others, to have 55% of the active ministers in the United Church of Canada respond to the survey. There were many things that I learned and put a report together, a preliminary report about what I heard in the data. But one of the biggest things that I heard.
But the bottom line is, it was overwhelmingly a belief in God and salvation through Jesus Christ.
I would say I think we need to be careful, because for those who were part of the survey, absolutely, it was an overwhelming belief in God, and I think the data is there for people to explore. I didn't actually get too deeply into questions around Jesus Christ, and my hope would be that not just we as a church, but we as the wider church would continue to have conversations about what that means for all of us as disciples of Jesus.
Okay. You know, one beautiful thing about the United Church is 50 years ago, it would have been leading the nation at national celebrations with the government. Those days are done, but last week you were granted an in-camera personal meeting with Prime Minister Trudeau. Would you be able to shed any light on what that meeting was like?
From my perspective, it was a wonderful meeting. I had the honor of meeting the Prime Minister, and much of that was around the fact that the United Church is in a transitional governance process. But I think the Prime Minister tweeted out really well what his hope is that we'll be able to work not just as the United Church, but as the wider Christian community on issues of social justice and on civil society. And isn't it wonderful to be Christians in the wider community, sharing what it means to be living out God's love of God and love of our neighbor as we love ourselves?
All right, Reverend Bott, thank you very much. You've given us lots to think about.